Hello and welcome to CB Talk, the Combined Transport Blackwell monthly podcast. Today is October 24th, 2025, and I'm your host, Nick Card, Vice President of Operations. We've got a great conversation coming up with Jake and Scott, talking all about the Flatbed Heavy Haul merger. We really get some insight on where that comes from, the state that they're at, and where they're looking to the future. But before we get to the conversation, first, the news. Our drivers and employees of the month this month: in Glasson Flatbed, Mark Chapman; in Blackwell, Jerry Davis; in Heavy Haul, Frank Monzo; and in the office, Jeannie Vincent. Thank you all for all of the hard work you do for the company, and congratulations. Our safety topic of the month this month, October, is personal conveyance use, PC. Making sure that drivers use personal conveyance correctly, understanding when it is allowed and not allowed. Make sure you review company policies, FMCSA guidelines, and proper scenarios to make sure you're using personal conveyance. The FMCSA is getting really smart about personal conveyance. They know how to ask you probing questions. They know exactly what to look for. Make sure you know how to answer their questions. Make sure you're using personal conveyance correctly, because their job is to write you a ticket. So don't let that happen to you. In the news this month, the Trump administration has continued its pursuit of English proficiency for truck drivers. Obviously, this is a very important issue. You need to be able to read the road signs when you're out there on the road. And so the FMCSA is withholding $40 million of grant funds from California because it is not enforcing its English language proficiency standards for CDL licenses. And so these funds are not going to go to California, setting the stage for the Trump administration's focus on ensuring these kinds of rules are followed, protecting our roads, and making sure that only the safest and most compliant drivers are behind the wheel of a truck. If California wants to get this money back, they're going to have to adopt and enforce rules that align with the English language proficiency, just like other states do. Now, California, for their part, are defending their procedures, saying that just in general, truck drivers are pretty safe, and so we don't need to be proficient with English language. Personally, I think that's kind of a silly way to look at it, because the reason why truck drivers are so much safer is because there are these requirements, and to cut into those requirements doesn't make for a safer truck. So it'll be interesting to see the back and forth between California and the Trump administration. And with that, it's time for our interview. We have with us here in the studio today Scott Waggoner and Jake Wells. Scott, if you don't know, is our what is your title, Scott?
Good question.
What do you want your title to be for the purposes of this?
I have no idea. I mean, it's a little bit of everything.
Right, exactly. Scott has been with the company 35 years. You have done everything, sales on up. You're responsible for some of our largest customers. Really, this company, you've lived and breathed this company for most of your adult life, man.
That is true.
And Jake wanted me to point out that Jake has been alive only 6 years less than Scott has worked at Combined Transport. So the young buck and the old stag, right? Jake, exciting news in your family, though, coming up. Your oldest is getting married this spring. Is that correct?
Already, yeah. 18,
Wow.
Graduated high school, got engaged, and then he'll be on his way.
Well, hey, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. Well, so today, the reason I got you both here in the studio is we want to talk about one of the biggest changes to the company structure in a long time, which is the unification of heavy haul and flatbed. If we can just kind of start, what kind of motivated that decision? What's the process? Where are we at? Kind of take us through how we got to today.
Sure. Do you want to take that one, Scott?
Well, I'll start it out because, Heavy Haul has produced some very large accounts, and with those large accounts, the equipment that's moved with the Heavy Haul division is not just a single piece, not just one load, pick it up and deliver. It's as everybody knows, there's a lot of fall-off loads, a lot of project freight that goes along with that. And so Jake and I have always worked together between the flatbed and even when he was in heavy haul. So in knowing that and knowing that there is a lot more project freight coming up, I think that's when we finally decided that this would be good to one of the reasons to merge the two divisions so that we could work closer with the flatbed division and all under one group. So.
I mean, because you guys have always worked closely together. I mean, I know, Jake, you used to work in the heavy haul department.
Yeah, actually, I mean, Scott trained me for the good bulk of my majority of my tenure here too. So we've done a lot of working directly with each other, and we've done a lot of working in two different departments, but that relationship has always been consistent to where we've had open communication and dialogue. And to add to kind of what Scott said, that's exactly what I was going to bring up, Nick, is that it just made sense. I mean, to answer that question really in a simple way, is it just made sense with the way that combined transport's heading and the way that we see the industry going, is that we were already doing so many projects together because of the fact that Scott mentioned with heavy haul projects using all kinds of different trailer types, whether that's the multi-axles that he, really specializes in right now, or, all the way down to the little flatbed fall-off loads. But in its roots, combined transport has always been a self-proclaimed specialized company. And that's always been our goal. It's always been what ownership and from Dick Card to to Mike Card to, Scott and I, we live and breathe specialized. That's what we want to do. That's how we want to separate ourselves. And bringing the flatbed fleet and into the heavy haul fleet is really a way that we can hit that goal that we've set for ourselves in a way that makes sense for the company and its vision is, continue to be specialized, start doing specialized things on flatbeds, while we're always going to need the general commodity freight, we want our focus and our efforts to be in what's the next coolest, biggest project we can do. What's the craziest thing we can haul on a flatbed and a step deck instead of just the multi-axles. So I think that had a lot of driving factors too.
Something that I know and I've seen in my time around the industry is like what is specialized doesn't always stay that way. Some things become very commoditized, right? And I think we've seen that in glass, which used to be a very specialized sort of thing, and it still is to a certain extent, especially with the double drop trailers, but glass hauling has changed, and so has flatbed. I mean, heavy haul has changed.
I was going to say superloads have changed too. The equipment that we have that used to be state of the art is changed. There's so much different equipment out there right this minute. The trailers are different, the configurations are different. We're going to like the Feynman bills and everything else. So you're right. Everything, at one time it's great, and then another time the industry changes. Now we're looking at the industry of all the data centers, the generators, to keep that. And that's really one of the focuses with the flatbed, because there is so many fall off loads. The drivers know that right this minute. Every big load that we do, there's 5 or 6 fall off loads, and that kept us going last year, and it's keeping us going this year. And go back to why did this happen, is because we're hand in hand, working together on each one of these. So
really, from a certain point of view, you could say this is actually a really forward-looking kind of change as we address what has happened sort of in the past, but also as we expect the kinds of changes coming in the future.
100%, right? Yeah, this is where the industry is going, right?
Okay. So with that, so that makes sense to me. It makes sense why we're doing this. So where are we in that transition? How's it going? What is kind of your sense of the condition on the ground, I'll say?
I think to answer honestly, it's been a whirlwind. It's been a whirlwind. I think for what we're looking at doing and really the staffing involved and the drivers that are kind of being, brought into this formula of what it's going to take for all of us to build this full team that we're looking at, this full transition, I think that we're doing pretty well. Of course, we can always look back, I think, and we can always say, well, we could have done this a little bit better. We could have communicated that a little more clearly, and you learn from those things and you try to do better in the future. But honestly, I think Scott and I are seeing big successes when it comes to not only just what we're seeing with the logistics of the fleet, but also in ways that we can promote drivers and give drivers more opportunity. That's part of the reason we wanted to do this too. We already had a pretty good system of making sure that we like to hire from within and promote from within. But this just makes that process so much easier. So for some of the flaws that we've had, I think that overall the transition is still definitely happening. We are not there yet. I'd say it's probably going to be another couple months before we really feel like we have our feet underneath us. And work out some of these kinks.
And to facilitate that in that couple months, let's talk about some of the challenges too, because there are definitely challenges, not only with office personnel, but with the drivers, and they have to learn a whole new mindset. Not just picking up the legal loads of flatbed, the steel, or whatever. And a lot of them have already been working with the overdimensional, but to train these new ones and get them into this system where they're comfortable and working with them. But we have the permit department that's growing too, because more flatbeds that are doing the overdimensional. We've got that pressure on them. So not with just the drivers, he brought it up too with the staff, the office staff too. It's just being patient with everybody and making sure that Jake and I are there to make sure that they succeed as well.
Well, I mean, I can imagine the training is a lot. I remember the first time I read a permit, I think my eyes went cross, because what am I even looking at? And so I talk with some of the guys that have been doing this for decades, and they can read that. They know exactly what it is. They know exactly what it means. But to bring people who've never done an overdimensional load, who've never done a permitted load, and suddenly be like, hey, you need to follow a route and obey the conditions.
It can be frustrating.
Well, that's a lot of training.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to train somebody through a telephone, not just in person. That's a lot.
Yeah. And that goes back to what Scott was saying with props with our permit department, how key they are and how important they are to this transition too, because they are taking on a lot extra, and not just extra workload, but extra training like we were just talking about. So we count on them heavily for that, and they're a super big help in that as well.
Well, so I think I want to stick on the drivers here for a second. How has this transition impacted drivers, and how do you think as this continues, is there gonna be more impact for drivers, or how, from a driver perspective, what's going on here?
I really wanted to key in on what Jake said, because this is a very large part of it, and he brought it out, is the training and the growing within the company. We have done that. We've gone from the Blackwell reefer division to the flatbeds. There's steps that we've been taking. So the benefit and how it's going to challenge them is they're going to see growth a lot quicker. And the ones that want to strive for that bigger equipment, that different equipment, that's available. And with the training, it's going to be available a lot quicker, and they're going to feel more comfortable at that pace and that training ability too. So that's where I really see it is, and that helps the Superload division, because I would say, 75%, if not more, of our multi-axle drivers came from the step deck and RGN. We've always done that, and it's always been successful. So that's something good for everybody to look at.
Turning to our customers, because obviously we've got to make sure we got loads and we got to take care of them. How does this help us better serve our customers in terms of the loads and their products for delivery?
So there's twofold. One, it serves our customer because they have experienced drivers. They've got drivers that they can count on, that have been with the company for a long time, that know from the flatbed, and the ones that are growing up when you look at it in that aspect of it, that scope. They have been with Combine, they're trained by Combine, and they're very successful. The other part of it is that the project freight, these customers can count on Combined Transport and see they've got the same drivers on this project. I've got reports that go over to our customers on these big projects. They see the same names. They see that everything is company, it's asset, and they feel comfortable. When they feel comfortable and the whole company is doing a great job, you know what happens? We get more projects. We get more freight. And that's really the key is to make that successful, and our drivers are the ones that are doing that.
Yeah, and on just an office operational level too, the benefit is key for customers. No longer are they getting emails from two different departments, and it felt fragmented. They now see that it's all coming from one group email, or one maybe customer lead, and then a couple of people that may support that lead in those roles. So I think just on an operational level, that's another reason why we wanted to do this, and we do see that impact already, that the customers are getting a better experience through Combined Transport, because they're getting quick communication all from one spot versus kind of a fragmented, maybe delayed responses because it was going to two different departments at times.
Sure, absolutely. I know, the fragmentation piece, I think, is sort of an interesting angle, because I know you and Scott have worked closely together with a lot of customers and a lot of projects. As you sort of are bringing this together, trying to repair that fragmentation, do you also see a change in your sort of collaboration and what that means for sort of the hierarchy in terms of delivering on that freight capacity?
Combines customers have always been Combines customers, no matter whether they're flatbed, heavy haul, and Scott and I have always been really, really good about that. So I want to make that clear. However, it would be remiss to not mention with this merger really helping focus our efforts on what's best for our customers and what's best for Combined by being able to get a kind of a more global picture of all of that freight at the same time rather than that fragmented. I use that word fragmented because even as well as Scott and I worked together, there's always going to be a disconnect because he's got things coming into him at some time and I've got things coming into me at some time. Now we have both of those things coming to both of us in real time. And I think that's really helped focus our efforts on, how to take care of our customers and show them all that they're just as important as the other customers. And I think that's been key. And is that, you agree with that?
I agree with that, yeah.
So as we look forward, you'd said there's still we're still more transition to come. What is that? Is that just polishing the rough edges as we get everything together, or is there more substantive things that we have coming up to change?
I like the way you put that because that's exactly what I was thinking too. We can't really see what change is needed until we get everybody trained up. Once we get everybody trained up, it's not getting them on board with the same direction because we know what we want and know what we're doing, but we're not just quite sure what the capabilities are with that department yet. So once everybody is trained up, and that goes with the drivers, that goes with the office employees, the personnel, then we can really take a look at it. Once it's running smooth, I think then Jake and I can take a look at it and say, hey, this is the route that we should go. And there's so much more out there that we have no idea. But one nice thing is this frees me up, and I talk about that a little bit. It just frees me up to go find that next thing. That's what I've always enjoyed, is finding that next little secret spot out there in the industry that has changed, just like we're talking about. So I really see it as a good thing as far as that.
Well, thinking,
that direction.
We were talking about servicing customers and stuff. So are there customers that you've worked with in the past that you think that this is going to help us secure more business or be able to land them and bring them into the Combine, into our Combined customer family?
I would say it's probably more new direction than old direction.
That's very forward-looking.
Yeah.
So what are the exciting new things on the horizon that Scott thinks we should go for, or Jake?
Unless they're too secretive.
I mean, but yeah,
they might be. Yeah,
too secretive. They're out there. We're looking at them, but
I know, but we still have to land it.
Yeah, exactly. No, understand. So I want to continue looking to the future because again, I think we were talking. This is a very forward-looking sort of thing. What do you think this looks like in a year from now? Let's say we get back together and we start talking about this. Where do you think we're going to be at in a year from now? Some of the lessons learned and some of the changes still on the horizon.
I can share what some of my goals are, and then maybe you can share some of yours too. But I think we're on the same page when Scott and I would both say that where we see it is more growth in our fleet size, both flatbed and heavy haul trucks, because we've really hit, like Scott was saying, going after these new accounts, these new industries that kind of lend to really bringing in this mix of equipment type that we're committed to offering up to customers. So I'd say, I think that's really, what did you ask, 6 to 9 months from now?
Yeah.
I think growth. I think growth in the office. I think growth with drivers and equipment. And Scott has always been, and I'll let you talk more about it but Scott's always been on the cutting edge of trying to find that next big trailer that he can get to. So I'm sure that he'll find something like that there. I don't know if there's anything on the horizon, but just more of what we have to offer to customers. We see the industry going so much more to assets, further and further away from brokerage. If Combine wants to keep up with that, we've got to find ways to grow our fleet And we've got to do that by finding good qualified drivers and then training the ones up that come in on flatbed into the step decks, into the RGNs, into the multi-axles. A big part of this transition that I do want to talk about before we get too far, before Scott answers that too, is that right before this transition, we made a recent transition to fleet managers too. And Chris Clark has been key in that, and that's going to continue to be key as we really try to figure out how to merge these two departments. That's been a very tough staffing issue with just finding the right amount of people that can handle all of that volume that we're starting to send out now. And I think that, again, looking 6 to 9 months in the future, that goes to how we want to improve office staff and just the quantity there as well as quality. But what would you add to that?
What I was thinking about when you were talking is 6 to 9 months growth. One of the biggest reasons that I would say that this transition is going to be so successful is it really, the key is to making our trucks profitable. That's really what our focus is.
Yep.
Because it's been tough. I mean, everybody knows that the industry the last 3 years has been terrible, and expenses are so high. Our focus is to make the trucks profitable, and merging it, we both think this is the key in getting that done.
Right.
Until we make the trucks profitable, we can't move forward. So that's our focus right now. 6 to 9 months, hopefully we're going to see that. We're going to see the industry changing, and then we're going to be able to take a look at growing the fleet.
Right. Good point.
So until we can get there, that fleet's going to stay the same. And that's not what we want. Nobody wants that. I want more flatbeds. I want bigger equipment. I want the Feynmanvilles. All that stuff out there. That's where the industry is. But we can't do that until we take care of what we have right now.
Gotcha. That makes sense. You brought up the state of the industry, and I know that's something that, just from a general economic perspective that impacts us, but also, specifically with freight and manufacturing. What are you guys seeing out there as the state of the industry? Are things going down? Are things looking up? Like, are they the same that they've been? Like, walk me through kind of your perception, especially as you're out there talking to customers, and what are you seeing for the economy?
The economy is so strange because it's not just going downhill. It's not just flatline. It's roads. It's hills. It's a mountain. It's a big lake, with a deep hole. Just when we think that we have traction, it's like boom, it just flattens out. We'll get a little bit, a few small projects or one new customer, and then all of a sudden everything else dies from another customer. It used to be you could see it by the seasons. Winter for heavy haul is just super busy. We have no idea these days, and it's really unfortunate. It's so frustrating. It's not only frustrating for the drivers, it's frustrating for us as well. Yeah. Just because we don't know. So how is it going? Where is it going? We don't know. What's kind of interesting though is the day-to-day stuff is not there. The contract stuff, I think that we're going to see higher rates, which is good. But the spot market seems to be pretty good right now. Our rates are up, which means our trucks are going to make more money, and if we can keep this going, and I'm not sure why the spot market is up, whether it's just a lot of the trucks are falling off. We see there's a lot of trucking companies closing, but it's really kind of neat. So do we know? Absolutely not. All we have to do is keep searching and trying to pull everything in.
Yeah, I mean, if we, based on what our customers had told us in January, we would have seen a huge spike in June, July, and we didn't see that. So I think that's what Scott's getting at, is this is kind of the first time that either of us can really remember not having a good sense of what the economy is going to do. I was out on a sales trip recently down in California, and I will say a lot of customers said that they're seeing quote uptick, and that's good. When customers start to see more quotes, then we start to see more quotes, and usually that turns into more business. So on a hopeful level, I hope we're heading in the right direction. But to be, to point out exactly what Scott said, is it does feel a little bit like a roller coaster. As soon as we make headway, sometimes we find a roadblock, and then we find a way to work around it. And that's what we're doing right now. We're just finding ways to work around it.
There's a famous economist who has a somewhat flippant quote about the economy. Basically says you can measure the state of the economy by three things: underwear, Advil, and cardboard boxes. And the point is, when the economy is bad, men don't buy new underwear. So you'd rather have some holes in your underwear. When the economy's bad, then you get stressed out more, so you need more Advil. And when the economy's bad, you're not buying things, so you don't need cardboard boxes. And so cardboard boxes go down. And I've always thought that was kind of a funny quote, but trucking is kind of the cardboard box. We're part of that cardboard box industry. When the economy is down, we're not moving stuff on our trucks because people aren't moving raw materials, or they're not buying as many machines. And trucking has always been a leading indicator. And in part because I think trucking, we have our fingers in so many different industries, we really do a good job of measuring the state of the economy. So I'll tell you, it's a little disconcerting for me to hear, like, if we can't figure out what's kind of going on with the economy, man, it is just a roller coaster for everybody. And that's kind of what I think we've seen for the economy these last few years. I mean, some sectors are in pandemic recovery, some are post-pandemic, some are reverted to pre-pandemic. It's like, it's a wild world out there, and navigating that, I mean, that is not easy.
Yeah, and I agree. And our main focus, and we're doing well on it, our main focus is to keep our assets going. There's not much past that. Every once in a while we're getting set, but to keep our assets going, to keep our drivers happy, keep their income, steady. That's what our focus is.
Well, is there anything else you guys want to chat about? I think we've reached about the limit of our time.
No, all I can say is, I appreciate the drivers being on board with us, being flexible as far as, seeing the change, and being patient with us and trying to get this figured out. There's, I'm sure there's a lot of scuttlebutt there on their side of it, but I just do want to say I appreciate it very much. And, any questions, make sure you talk to Jake or myself, and, we'll sure be willing to fill you in and, help you. But I like that 6 to 9 months to see where we're at, and I know it'll be a much better picture.
Jake, anything else?
No, I think Scott nailed it, and that was the big thing I wanted to say, is just appreciating the driver's patience, because we know that we're asking a lot of them. We know that we're making big changes to not just their work, but their livelihoods, and so we understand that, and we take that to heart, and we care about that deeply, and so we want them to understand that it's not some decisions we're making flippantly, because we understand the impact that it has on them. So yeah, be patient with us, as you just continue to be patient with us while we work this out, and really knowing that the goal here is exactly what Scott said, that we're keeping you guys rolling, we're getting you home on time, we're staying on top of making sure that you guys have good visibility what's coming in your future too, just like we're working on that for our office staff. So
well, gentlemen, Jake, Scott, thank you so much for being on. It was great having a conversation with you guys today. Good luck. I think it's going great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jake and Scott, for the interview. Our next episode will be out on November 21st. We are going to have 2 drivers on the program. That'll be our first time we've had driver guests on the program. Our drivers, it is a surprise for now, so keep an eye on Facebook for the announcement. But we're looking forward to having them on the program. If you have any questions, please send them to us via Facebook or email them to us at cbtalk@combinedtransport.com. We appreciate your participation. It's your engagement that makes this podcast work. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of the Combined Transport team.